You know, there are moments in life that change everything. The kind of moments you think you'll never forget, but somehow, your mind tries to bury them deep, hoping they'll fade. For me, that moment was the day they told me my baby was gone. My name is Ava, and this is the story of how they stole my child. And how, 15 years later, I found the truth. I was 20 years old, young, in love, and filled with dreams that only a girl in her 20s could have. I was married to Liam, a charming man from a wealthy family. Everyone said I was lucky, and at first, I believed it too. When I found out I was pregnant, I was over the moon. I had imagined holding my baby in my arms, watching their first smile, hearing their first laugh. I pictured sleepless nights, messy diapers, and every little joy a mother knows. But fate had a different plan. My pregnancy was hard more because of the family than anything else. Liam's parents had always been distant, cold, and controlling. They didn't hide their disappointment that their son had chosen a girl from a modest background like me. I tried to keep the peace, but every visit to their mansion felt like walking into a trap. And then, the night of the birth came. I was in the hospital, exhausted but hopeful. The doctors and nurses were kind, and Liam was by my side. Or so I thought. After hours of labor, the doctor came in with a face I will never forget. A face full of sympathy, but eyes that told a story of secrets I wasn't ready to hear. Your baby didn't survive, the doctor said gently. We did everything we could, but everything stopped. My heart shattered into a million pieces, but something inside me didn't believe it. They handed me a tiny white blanket and told me it was my baby's. I looked down, but I didn't see life, I saw silence. The cold, empty silence of a lie waiting to be uncovered. Liam didn't say much. His eyes were distant, and for the first time, I saw fear in them. That fear wasn't for me. It was for something else. The next days were a blur. Funerals, condolences, whispers behind my back. But amidst all the grief, a question gnawed at me. Where was my baby? I was told to move on, that life had dealt a cruel hand. But every night, I whispered into the darkness. My baby, where are you? Little did I know, the answers I sought would come in the most unexpected way 15 years later. Asterisk, after they told me my baby was gone, the world around me didn't just stop, it felt like it turned upside down. Liam and I drifted apart quickly. He became a shadow of the man I married, distant and cold. His parents, they were even worse, like vultures circling over the ruins of my life, waiting to see how far I'd fall. I remember nights lying awake, staring at the ceiling, clutching that tiny white blanket they gave me. It smelled faintly of lavender, but to me, it smelled like betrayal. How could they just give me a blanket and expect me to believe my baby was truly gone? But what choice did I have? Everyone around me expected me to accept it, to move on. So, I tried. I buried my dreams under layers of pain and silence. I finished college, became a nurse, and threw myself into work. Helping others heal gave me purpose, but it couldn't fill the hole inside. And yet, there was a nagging feeling, a whisper in the back of my mind that something wasn't right. It started with little things. A phone call I wasn't supposed to overhear, hushed conversations between Liam and his parents that stopped when I entered the room, strange glances, half smiles filled with secrets. One time, I found a photo, just a glimpse, a tiny baby in a silver frame, but the face was blurry, like someone had tried to hide it. I never confronted Liam. I was terrified of what the truth might be. Years passed, and I became stronger, but that question never left me. Where was my baby? I tried to convince myself it was time to let go, but deep down, I knew I couldn't. Not until I uncovered the truth. Little did I know, The truth was closer than I thought, knocking on my door. Asterisk asterisk. It had been 15 years since that devastating night, 15 years filled with unanswered questions and quiet desperation. I had built a life on the foundation of loss, but I never stopped hoping. One rainy evening, as I was locking up my small apartment after a long shift at the hospital, there was a knock on the door. At first, I thought it was a neighbor or maybe a delivery, but when I opened it, my breath caught in my throat. Standing there was a teenage girl. Her eyes were wide, nervous, but determined. Her hair was a wild tumble of curls, and her clothes looked worn, but there was something familiar about her, the way she looked at me, like she recognized a part of herself in me. "Hi," she said softly. "My name's Emily. I think you're my mom." For a moment I couldn't speak. I stared, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. Though Emily reached out and took my hand gently, like she was holding onto a lifeline. "I don't have anyone else," she whispered. "But I've been searching for you." Tears streamed down my face, blurring the edges of the world. Was this a dream? A cruel joke? Or was it finally the truth I'd been chasing for so long? I invited her in, my hands trembling as I closed the door behind her. That night, Emily told me everything she knew: how she was adopted, how she'd always felt like something was missing, and how a single, faded birth certificate led her to me. As I listened, a fire ignited inside me, a mix of hope, fear, and determination. This was the moment everything changed. Asterisk asterisk. The next few days felt like a whirlwind, like waking from a long, dark nightmare and stepping into a confusing, uncertain dawn. Emily stayed with me, and every moment with her was both beautiful and heartbreaking. She was everything I imagined my child to be: curious, kind, and with a spark in her eyes that mirrored my own. But the questions, they swirled constantly in my mind. How had this happened? Why was she taken from me? Who could have done something so cruel? I knew I had to find out the truth. We started with the birth records, and what we uncovered was chilling. There were gaps, altered documents, and names that didn't add up. Someone had gone to great lengths to erase Emily's existence from my life. I confronted Liam over the phone, but he refused to answer. His silence spoke volumes. I turned to my instincts and the few allies I had: old friends at the hospital, a private investigator who believed in my story. Bit by bit, the puzzle started to come together. Liam's parents had been behind it all. Their obsession with control and appearances had led them to orchestrate a lie, so elaborate it almost fooled me, and nearly destroyed my chance at motherhood. Emily's arrival was more than coincidence. It was fate giving me a second chance. But I knew this was only the beginning of a long, painful battle. Asterisk asterisk. With every piece of evidence we gathered, my resolve hardened. I was no longer the broken young woman who accepted loss without question. This time I was fighting not just for myself, but for Emily, for our truth. I scheduled a meeting with Liam's parents, the same people who stole my baby, who tried to bury the truth beneath their wealth and influence. When I walked into their grand mansion, memories flooded me: cold hallways, whispered insults, and the crushing weight of their disdain. They looked at me as if I were a ghost, someone they hoped had vanished from their lives. But I was standing there, stronger than ever. "I know what you did," I said, voice steady but fierce. "You lied about the baby. You stole her from me." They denied everything. Liam's mother smiled with cruel satisfaction. "You'll never have proof," she sneered. But I did. Emily's DNA test results were irrefutable, confirming she was my daughter. And with the private investigator's report, the facade was crumbling. I told them this wasn't just about reclaiming my child. It was about exposing the darkness behind their perfect image. Their empire, built on lies, was vulnerable. That night, as I left their mansion, I felt a mix of fear and hope. The battle was far from over, but I wasn't alone anymore. Emily was with me, and together, we would fight for justice. The courtroom was cold, sterile, and intimidating. Nothing like the warmth I'd found with Emily these past weeks. But this was where the truth would finally come to light. The in-laws had pulled every string they could: expensive lawyers, character assassinations, and endless delays. They painted me as an unstable woman, desperate for attention. But I was ready. I sat beside Emily, feeling her quiet strength. The evidence was stacked against them: falsified documents, eyewitness accounts, the private investigator's testimony, and most importantly, the undeniable DNA results. When Emily took the stand, her voice was steady despite the thousands of eyes watching us. "I'm here to tell the truth," she said simply. "I'm Ava's daughter." That day, everything changed. The judge ruled in our favor, acknowledging the deception and ordering custody to be transferred to me. But more than the legal victory, I felt a wave of healing. For the first time in 15 years, I was a mother again legally, emotionally, and completely. Still, I knew this was only the beginning of a new chapter, one where we would rebuild, reclaim, and rise above the pain. With the court's decision behind us, Emily and I stepped into a new world, one filled with hope, challenges, and the promise of healing. But the fight wasn't over. The in-laws' empire still loomed, their influence casting long shadows. They tried to retaliate through the media, spreading lies and trying to discredit me. But this time, I refused to stay silent. I shared my story publicly, through interviews, social media, and advocacy groups. I became a voice for mothers who had lost children under suspicious circumstances, and for families torn apart by lies. Emily stood proudly by my side, her presence a testament to resilience and love. Together we built a movement, shining light on the dark corners where deception thrived. The in-laws' reputation began to crumble, their secrets exposed to the world. And through it all, I discovered something I never expected: strength, not just for myself but for every woman who had been silenced. Our journey was far from perfect, but it was ours. And as I looked at Emily, my daughter, my light, I knew we had won something far greater than a legal battle. We had won back our lives. Life after the court. Victory wasn't a fairy tale. It was raw, complicated, and often messy. But it was real. Emily and I faced many hurdles. 15 years apart had created a distance neither of us could ignore. There were moments of frustration, tears, and questions about the years lost. But there were also moments of laughter, discovery, and connection. I learned about the teenager she'd become, her dreams, fears, and the silent pain of not knowing her birth mother. Emily learned about me, the woman who never gave up, who fought fiercely for her. Together, we navigated the delicate dance of building a mother-daughter relationship from the ground up. And in the process, I found healing for my own wounds. I started therapy to confront the trauma, and Emily found support in friends and counselors who helped her process her past. We both learned that love doesn't erase pain, but it can heal it. Our bond grew stronger every day, built on honesty, patience, and hope. And with that hope, we began planning a future, one where the past no longer controlled us. Just when I thought we had weathered the worst storm, life threw us a curveball I never saw coming. It wasn't the in-laws this time. It was someone I had trusted, someone close to me. A close friend I confided in about everything. Had been secretly feeding information back to Liam's family. I found out the truth through a text message I wasn't meant to see, a conversation filled with lies and betrayal. I felt like the ground had shifted beneath my feet again. How could someone I trusted so deeply betray me? After all we had been through, Emily was devastated. The fear that our hard-won peace might be shattered was real. But instead of breaking, something inside me ignited. I realized that the fight wasn't just about reclaiming what was lost, it was about protecting the future we were building. With renewed strength, I confronted the betrayal head-on. I cut ties with those who didn't have our best interests at heart, and tightened the circle around Emily and me. This was a painful lesson, one that reminded me that healing also meant being vigilant. And, as hard as it was, I knew that together we could face anything. The road wasn't easy, but standing here today, with Emily by my side, I know every tear, every battle, every sleepless night was worth it. We faced darkness, lies, betrayal and loss, but we found light. I am no longer the frightened young woman who accepted her fate. I am a mother, a fighter, and a survivor. Our story is more than just a tale of revenge. It's about resilience, about never giving up on the people you love, and about reclaiming your power even when the world tries to silence you. Emily and I are building a life filled with love, trust, and hope. And to every woman out there fighting her own battle, remember, your voice matters, your truth matters. And sometimes, the greatest revenge is simply living well and loving fiercely. Because in the end, that's what really wins. Thank you for listening to my story. Thanks for watching. Hoped you liked it. If you watched till the end, please comment revenge so that we could understand you were with us till the end. As well as, please let us know where are you watching from. Before leaving, please hit the subscribe button, comment your thought and share with your nearest and dearest one. See you in the next one. Until to the next one, stay happy.